Today we commemorate the passing of Hacham Ovadia. So of course it is appropriate to speak about him, and may his neshama have aliyah. So personally, I grew up in Israel, Sephardic Jew. Me, my brothers, like many other Sephardic Jews growing up around my time, we went to school, a chain of schools that Hacham Ovadia built, that he encouraged, that he supported. And of course we are thankful for that. And what he did, actually, he always worked to get all the Sephardim in Israel, to get everybody united, to have, sort of same rituals at home. Because if you think about it, in the future, kids are growing and they're much closer together. Like, let's say two kids are growing, this one eats right on Pesach, the other one doesn't eat right on Pesach. He didn't view it in a good, he didn't look at it as something good. And I'm just giving an example. So he made sure, always tried and slowly to get everybody to be on the same page. And of course, things that don't contradict halakha, don't contradict sort of the constitution, that are ritual from home, you always encourage to do it. Yemenites, they read a certain way. These guys sing a certain way, no problem. But the main things is we should have the same laws, because we are all from Maran Shulchan Aruch, Maran Bet Yosef, and that was his way of doing it. And thank God he succeeded. Most of the Sephardim today, they follow his books, and it makes things a lot easier. Also, as a lot of people know, that he is known to be lenient, if you may say, because it's hard to say about someone that is lenient, because if you think about it, every leniency has the other side as well. Meaning, I'll just give an example. If I'll say, oh, you know what, now you have to eat bread on Shabbat. How much bread do you have to eat? 1 ounce, let's say. The other Hacham, let's say you take another Hacham, he tells you, no, you need to eat 2 ounces. Only then you fulfill the mitzvah. So that is to say, that if someone eats something that's not allowed, or eats on Kippur, for example, when will he transgress? If Hacham Ovadia said on Shabbat, in order to be Yotzeh, it's not necessarily right, it's not necessarily correct what I'm saying, but I'm just using an example. How much of that you have to eat? Only 1 ounce on Kippur. The moment he ate 1 ounce, that's it. He broke Kippur. The other Hacham that said that he had to eat on Shabbat 2 ounces, so also on Kippur, he has to eat 2 ounces in order to transgress the law. So a person that ate, the same person that ate 1 ounce, according to Hacham Ovadia, on Shabbat did good, on Kippur did bad, but vice versa to the other rabbi. So hopefully that makes sense. But if you think about it a little more, the same thing with measurements in Sukkah and so on and so forth. So there isn't, every leniency will have the side effect that on the other side it becomes like a humrah, like something strict. But this whole idea of becoming leniency comes also from his heart. What does that mean to say? He always thinks that the moment you make things easier or mutar, and of course you rely on halakha, and that no one argues. The moment he said something, you know that you can't argue with him, because it's just not practical. It's almost not possible. He brings so many sources, so many rabbis that speak about the same topic, and he proves from very thin. It's like a lawyer, you look at court cases here and there, and imagine you're a good lawyer and you come with there is a certain case in New York right now in 2020, and you bring a case from Arizona from 1979, and then you bring a case from Philadelphia from 1926, and a case 200 years ago from wherever, and the other lawyer comes and all of a sudden gives you 35 cases. It's mind-blowing just to sit down and go over all those cases. And he says, and he talks, and the judge is, okay, you done? No, I'm just starting. It's you look at every answer that he wrote, every summary that he wrote, he is summarizing the whole Torah. He brings all the rabbis from all over the world that ever spoke about the same topic. How could a person know so much? How could a person remember everything by heart. It almost makes no sense. Like if you it's so much information to remember what page and everything by heart. So many times I was thinking about it, and the more you learn, the more you see that that it's just amazing. And I think that the biggest lesson of all, that if we look deeply at Muhammad and the way he was acting with people, is his love. This whole engine that was within him, the fuel of this tremendous work of Torah, was love. He loved people to the point that even when he was a kid, he saw kids, his friends are not doing Birkat Hamazon. He says, why don't do Birkat Hamazon? He says, we don't remember it by heart. So everyone is going to play in the break, in the recess. He sits down, he writes Birkat Hamazon. He's 8, 9, 10 years old, and he gives it to them. Oh, now you have it written. Now you can do it. Growing up, every time they needed him, something, he is the first to be devoted. He went, he did. Think of all the stories that we hear. A mother comes to him, and she starts crying, and she says, a lady comes to him. She says, we're married, 17, 18, 19 years. You see these things in the video. Rabbi, we don't have children. What are we going to do? You know what he did? The first thing that he was doing, he was crying with her. Crying as if it's his own daughter. He feels the pain of the person that's in front of him. He loved people. And there was a father that came to him with his son, 14 years old. He says, my son has a problem. Here he is. But every time he gets upset, he beats me up. And I don't know what to do. My son, and the son looks at him and says, Hacham, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So the rabbi looks at him and he says, I want to ask you something, son. And you know, Ovadia with the dress. If I was there in your house, whenever you go crazy, and he regrets, the son regrets, and that's why he comes to the rabbi also. But every time he regrets, he does it again and again. So Ovadia tells him, look how he thinks. He says, if I was there, would you do the same thing? So he says, no, next to the Hacham, how can I do such a thing? He says, look, let's take a picture. Now me and you will take a picture. Then Daddy will take it, we'll make it big, we'll frame it, we'll put it in the house. Every time you get upset, you look at a picture of me and you together. You remember you were here? And what we spoke about? Look how he goes from such high level of writing the most sophisticated answers of all time to a child. Another story of another Hazan from Brooklyn, actually my friend, that he had a problem. And he went to Chacham Ovadia. Chacham Ovadia told him, go get married. One rabbi told him he shouldn't get married. 20 years old kid, 21 years old, you can't get married. He went to Chacham Ovadia. Chacham Ovadia says, well, he heard the problem. He says, don't worry, go get married. So the boy looks at him, he started crying. He says, but who's going to marry me? I had this medical problem, I had this, I had that. Who is going to marry me? Well, Chacham Ovadia said, go. Find a good wife. Don't tell her anything. Bring her to me. I'll tell her to marry you. What kind of a person that you're talking about, the chief rabbi of Israel? This is, it's just if a person is not able to see. Now, of course, many times you see the parts. Sometimes in the media, they show you things that they want you to see. Of course, there is an agenda behind it. And that is what maybe will end. I don't want to take too long. That is the lesson that I wanted to say. Hacham, if we look, we just passed Hag Sukkot. In Sukkot, we have the 4 kinds. We have the etrog, we have the lulav, hadas, and arava. So what is the thing that we spoke about in the etrog? What does he have? The etrog has the 2 things. It has the smell, it has the taste. The lulav, only the taste, right? Only the taste because it comes from the date. And then we said the hadas has only the smell, and the arava has none. And Hachamim tell us that these 4 kinds also, we spoke about the 4 kinds talking about 4 different people. But also you can say that within a person itself, that etrog goes towards the heart, like is parallel to the heart, and the lulav, the spine, the arava, the eyes, and the the no, the hadas is the eyes, and then the arava is the lips. So let's focus. What is the best thing of the four kinds? The heart. But it doesn't mean that if you don't have a spine, if you don't have the lulav, you can't just use an etrog without lulav. All those four are important, and they are, without all of them, they're nothing. So the same thing, what I wanted to say is about a hacham. It doesn't mean that if a hacham has a big heart and has the view, the eyes, and he knows how to speak, he shouldn't have a spine. Also, hacham needs, he needs to tell people they need to know the limit. They can't, sometimes we see things that he said or he did. Of course, he was a person just like all of us, but that was purely his choice to devote Am Yisrael, to devote himself to Am Yisrael. It says his son says a story that for the second time that he got engaged, to his whoever he was married. So once before he was engaged, and they broke it off. Then he got engaged to Margalit, alaiha shalom, the Rabbanit, his wife that lived with him, and all the kids that he has today is from her. And before the wedding, she wanted to break it off. So he went into the room. And why was that, by the way? Because every time he would come to her house to pick her up, he would speak to her father for too long. Long story short, she didn't want to marry him. So he went into the room and he told her, he spoke to her privately, and he says, Margalit, I will open the eyes of the Jewish people in the Torah. Just bear with me. Have a little patience. I will do it greatly. Just have, he was begging her to not leave him. And you see what happened. There was another lady that at the end of her, many years later, she was supposed to marry Chacham Ovadia, and she came. She said, I want to see Chacham Ovadia. Why? Who are you? I dated him when we were young. And she said she never had children and stuff, but he saw her and he spoke to her, he was nice to her. At the end of the day, the lesson for us is the heart, the etrog, as we said. The etrog is the most important thing. Spine, also important. Talking nicely, important. Having a good eye, important. But most important is the heart. We should all be able, we can't think of a hacham, he was at his level, but a person can think even as a husband, as a parent. I'll tell you one more story. Sorry, it's taking too long, but one more story about a parent. You just spoke about parents. So Chacham Ovadia, how much he was begging. You hear it from time to time. He's begging parents, be nice to your children, especially, you think maybe here in America is less, but in Israel it's much tougher, especially 20-30 years ago. But he said, with satisfaction, you should talk to kids nicely, respect them. Why you have to create such bad, those kids at the end of the day, they're gonna grow and they're going to remember everything they went through. And you don't want to have bad memories. The children should not have bad memories. So he says a story about a rabbi from somewhere we're not going to mention. He doesn't mention his name. But Chacham Ovadia was from Iraq, from Bavel. So he said, a rabbi from Bavel, big rabbi from Bavel. He had a son, 17, 18 years old, and this son passed away. And he said that in the funeral, whenever they put him into the hole in the ground, the parents stood there, and that's how Chacham Ovadia says the story, and they asked the son, the parents of the boy that was dead, was niftar, was asking him, Mehila, usliha, we weren't acting with you nicely. We weren't treating you fairly. And this is a rabbi that's telling his dead son, we want to ask, the forgiveness from you. And then Chacham Ovadia turns to the crowd that are listening to him. He says, isn't it in vain? Isn't it unnecessary, this asking Mehila? What for? Why, to begin with, you have to do such a thing? It's your own son. Why you have to treat your own child this way? That shouldn't happen at all. And he's always encouraging, talk to your child nicely, respect him. Through that you can get the heart. But again, it's important to start from the beginning. In the middle, it's very hard to change. A person that doesn't change himself, obviously that we can't pass it on or create a different atmosphere at home. On that note, I wish Be'ezrat Hashem, the sechut of Chacham Ovadia should be upon us, and we shall be able to express love to others and feel the feelings. A person asks you something, think about it. A person tells you, he's going through a problem. To feel the problem that the other person that's in front of us is going through. Be'ezrat Hashem, tehi nishmato tzorah b'tzorah haim, may his neshama have aliyah, and may we be zocheh to have our Mashiach coming very fast, and we shall see Binyan Bet HaMikdash b'mehera b'yamenu.